have been talking about innovation, things related to artificial intelligence, business intelligence, Industry 4.0, IoT, and some more related things like augmented reality, virtual reality, things like that. I'm actually an actual user. I'm a person into the execution of manufacturing excellence. And categorically, I'm working in the area of reliability engineering. For last 4 or 5 years, you along with me have been listening about all these big things. Once you go down to the reality, what level of real-time application at the field, at the manufacturing level, is really happening? As a real-time user, I would like to share my experience, and in the end, I will appreciate in case some of the people who are using these high-end applications. So far, whatever we have been hearing, what we have been reading, what we have been even seeing on the media, I will certainly appreciate in case people can also share their views. Well, that's the reason I have used the word innovation is a fad. I won't say that we are not talking about reality, but still, it's like a fashion statement also. We talk about artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, if you go down deeper inside, whatever information you are managing, say through the digitalization or whatever fancy terms we call it, it is a kind of a data. Data basically are of two types. One is the continuous data, another is a discrete data. And fundamentally, there are only three things. No matter whatever level of artificial intelligence we may talk about, either we establish a kind of a relationship, or we do a kind of a forecasting, or we create a model. No matter whatever level of artificial intelligence you keep on talking, only these are the three things so far. As far as the contemporary situation is concerned, even people talk about, okay, we are putting the sensors, we'll have the data, we'll put on the cloud, everything. But still, the current situation is, still, 70% of the activities which are being done are analysis of the descriptive statistics, which even through a conventional Excel sheet also one can do. Still, I've done a lot of research at HBR and so many other research papers I have studied. Still, the real-time application will take another 5 to 7 years. That is the reason I have said innovation is still a kind of a fashion statement. And I said, it is a fashion statement unless it delivers the value. And in business, what is value? We need to manage the profitable growth. In case that ROI doesn't come, then probably it's a kind of a fashion statement. Still, so-called innovation or the kind of big jargons we have been talking about, even as on today, it is not the roadmap for the success 100%. Let me give you 3 very real-time examples. Everyone has heard about Steve Jobs. Sometime in the beginning of 80s, when they started Apple, within 2 to 3 years, Apple became the $1 billion company at that time. Nowadays, I mean, it's a humongous amount of money. And Steve Jobs, by nature, was a kind of a free-spirited person. Probably he was more focusing on the innovation, etc. And they had definitely the funding from big investors. So within 2 to 3 years, after observing their free style of working, people said, fair enough, you can design a world-class product, you can think ahead of 50 years, but you do not know how to do the business. And if some of the people, if they are aware of the history of Apple, after 3 years, there was a gentleman called John Scully. He was the vice president marketing of, marketing director of Pepsi. He was brought in because the investor said, boss, you can make a good product, but how to run a business, how to scale up the business, that is none of your business. And trust me, the person, rather Steve Jobs, persuaded John Scully to join. I still remember he made a statement, Scully, how long you will keep on selling a sugar-rated product? Why don't you join a company of a future or a technology? And after 1 year, because Steve Jobs was not a business-like guy, within 1 year, if most of the people might be aware, he was fired from the job. And after that, the same innovator, he started another company called Next. But that product got flopped, failed. Then later on, there is another story that he started a Pixar corporation till the end of the last century. And during these 20, 25, 30 years, Apple was also struggling. Microsoft or IBM, they could take a big lead. And in the beginning of this century, Apple didn't have an option. So, okay, let's try Steve Jobs again. But this time when he came, he made the history. Probably one can rate him one of the top 5 or 10 best entrepreneurs, managers, whatever you may call the leaders in last 100 years. So, something which was created by Steve Jobs also could not sustain. Even during the beginning of 60s, the ICs were not invented by Intel. There were 3 companies. One was Fairchild, that exists no more. Texas Instruments and Motorola were there, but still, during that time, it was not the success. Sometime around the mid of the 80s, when the Intel came and the legendary chairman Andy Grove, he took over and he made the Intel a big success because he added the value. There is one very famous statement by Andy Grove, only the paranoid will survive. Things were so tough that he made a statement all the time in his life. He was till his even he led probably until till his death, and he always made a statement. He always felt, due to the intensive competitive strategy, rather the environment, he always felt he was a paranoid. Or recently, 10, 15 years before, even Google tried to launch the Google Lens, and it basically could not produce the real kind of success which probably Google was predicting or envisaging, and the kind of technology they have put in. I'm just talking about few products or innovations which were backed by some big organizations or people. But when we talk about the innovation, where a lot of ordinary people are concerned, so it's a challenge. So the idea is, one should not just taken away with the fashion or a fad, innovation, wow, or artificial intelligence or BI tools or AR, VR, Yes, after 20, 30 years, they will change the world. But right now the way situation is happening, because I am the actual user. I am one of the certified reliability engineering professional in the country, and I'm using the reliability engineering on the most advanced plants. And we record the data from the so-called sensors, taking on cloud and using everything, but still 80% of the places what we are talking about is a descriptive statistics. Yes, after 15 or 10 years, things will change, but not now. That's why I said innovation, till it will not add value, it will not add the profitable growth, it is a fashion statement. Nowadays, even startups are somewhere synonyms to innovation. And most of these startups, there's a environment also that, okay, easy funding is available. But whosoever has an experience with the startups, the kind of unrealistic expectations of the venture capitalist, the funding partners, is so crucial that probably the entire approach of innovation vaporizes. Here are certain facts. Say 75% of startups are funded by venture capitalists, and startups in India fail within 5 years. 30% of chances of any startup success observed, even if it is initiated by a successful innovator. 30, 40 years before, one Indian, I think he was Bhatia, first name I am forgetting, Hotmail, Sandeep Bhatia, was purchased, taken over by Bill Gates, Microsoft. After that, he tried n number of products. Nothing worked. There's a series of history. Okay. So, enough background. I have done some research, some analysis, and here are some basic points I have worked out. In case any concept which which needs to be successful. So there are two main areas. One is the execution capability. I'm sorry, the spelling of competence is wrong, excuse me, so please take in a right spit. So this is the competence. So there are two things which are important. One has to have the basic competence, and the innovator, the person, maybe a startup company or whosoever wants to go in for a startup process, they should have three basic competencies. Number one, that is funds and resource management. Oh, we had the funding, let's have a 5-star office, all blah blah stuff. Or how you manage the talent. The second thing is risk mitigation. Here I'll add one point. For any kind of a business activity, categorically when we are going through a innovation route, say it's a kind of a project, and let's say analyze, rather create an analogy of a tool like PMBOK. So the ninth pillar is risk management. So any innovator, he should have a real big capability to manage the risk. And the last is, he should basically have the capability to scale up the whole process in a defined period, because at the end of the day, in case anything which is related to innovation, some venture capitalist is going to enter into it, he is going to barge in, and then he has the timelines. So unless otherwise, these three typical competencies, if we do not have, probably anything which is related to innovation has a chance of a big failure. And there are two another parameters in the execution. First is obviously the capability to execute, and the second is he should be very smart, very strong in using the shortcuts, or you may call it the operational excellence parameters. So in case these 5 parameters are being taken care of, chances are that anything which is related to innovation is likely to have a better success. Now, for any business which is related to the innovation, so 4 typical points which have been observed after the research. So the very first is it's no brainer. Number 1 is excellent customer experience. You buy an Apple, you pay 200 times or 300 times more than the price of an ordinary cell phone. Still there is a customer experience, a kind of a satisfaction, and that's why you pay that much. Number 2 is strong leadership, conventional wisdom, but still. In the last century, General Electric, they had the legendary leader. Say from the beginning of 80s till 2005 or 6, he took the organization from $30 billion to $200 billion. And after that, once he left, probably Jack Immelt, could not sustain. I think now he is even retired. So the most important thing, again, the second part is the strong leadership. Then the right talent acquisition and retention, and the quick adaptation of technology. These are the 4 research-based points. In case any innovation related business has to be there, so these 4 points are very important to be successful, as far as in case anything related to innovation is there. And what are the no-no or the failure factors in case you have limited funds, poor leadership, unable to scale up, ineffective team, and overemphasis on product and less emphasis on sale. Because it has been observed categorically, businesses related to innovation has a typical issue. As I was discussing, initially Steve Jobs was a failure. He was kicked out. He stayed from that company for 20 years. But in the beginning of this century, again when he was called, he was less of an innovator, he was more of a businessman, he was more of a sales guy. Lastly, there are 2 routes of innovation business. Either you scale up and get acquired, or you scale up so much that you acquire others. There's no third way. So with this, I finish my presentation. The overall approach was that as a real time, what I've been experiencing, and what I have been listening about these big things like artificial intelligence and blah, blah, blah. And I'm an actual user, how things are happening, but yes, no negative messages. After 5 to 7 years, when the technologies will really, I'll say, mature, it's going to change the world. But still, probably we have to be very careful. With this, I'll finish my presentation.